Hey Southwest students, today we're going to look at day 23 AMI activities for both English and social studies for 8th grade. So we're continuing on with our 2020 pandemic journal from the week. A reading requirement says see ELA/social studies chunked articles at the bottom of this packet. Read section 4 of article 1. So I'm going to click my link down here. And what is highlighted is what we are reading for today. Remember, this is Henry Knighton's account from yesterday. So we're going to read his account today, and we've got one question out to the side to answer. So read along with me as I read it out loud. 48 million people died suddenly. In 1348 and 1349, many millions of people died throughout the world. It began first in India and moved west to Tarsus, Turkey, killing Muslims first and then Christians and Jews. The office of the Pope believed that 48 million people died suddenly in those distant countries of Asia, mostly non-Christians, in the space of 1 year from Easter to Easter. This did not include the death of Christians. When the king of Tarsus, a Muslim, saw this sudden loss of life among his people, he and his nobles set out to travel to the Pope in France. They wanted to become Christian and be baptized by the Pope. The king believed that his people were being punished because they had not accepted Jesus Christ as the Son of God. However, when he had completed 20 days of his journey, he heard that the fatal plague had killed many Christians too. So they turned back to return to Tarsus. But Christians who had been following the king and his people attacked. They killed 1,312 people the first day and 400 more on the second. Then this most terrible plague came to the coast of England. It went through Southampton and came to Bristol. The cruel death took just 2 days to spread, and almost the whole town was wiped out. Yikes. So, the question out to the side reads, why do you think some people believed at first Christians were immune to the disease, so that Christians didn't get the disease? Your answer might look like this. I believe some people believed at first Christians were immune to the disease because blank. So once you've answered that question, let's scroll back up to our activity for today. You have a journal question. What does your neighborhood look like? Are people walking around? And how have people's thoughts about travel changed? So, my neighborhood or Springdale or wherever you live can be described as blank. People in my neighborhood are blank. People's thoughts about travel either have or haven't changed because blank. So answer those questions. Then, this is the repeated question from the article below, but I'm going to read it one more time. After reading the chunk of the article, consider the following question. Why do you think some people believed at first Christians were immune to the disease? And your answer might start, I believe some people believed at first Christians were immune to the disease because blank. And then 3 says to continue your Venn diagram to analyze similarities and differences between the Black Death and COVID-19 outbreaks. Use evidence from the article in your journal to support your work. So scroll back up to day 1, and you're going to see your Venn diagram right here. So the idea is, as you are reading these articles, you're learning more about the Black Death. As you're doing your own research, you're learning more about COVID-19. And so you can add daily to the Venn diagram. So remember, any similarities you find between the Black Death and COVID-19 go right here in the center. And then whatever you find out about the Black Death that does not work with COVID-19 goes here, and vice versa. So anything you find out about COVID-19 that doesn't go with the Black Death goes here. So, as always, if you have any questions, please reach out through email to your social studies teacher or your English teacher, and they would be more than happy to help. Hey Southwest students, so now that we've read the prompt for day 23, let's look at the daily Google form that you're going to fill out. So the title is AMI Day 23 Activity. Mine says teacher example because remember, I made a copy so I can fill it out and show you how to do it. Yours will not say teacher example. So the instructions say answer your daily assignment on this Google Doc. Use the daily AMI video attached to help you out if you need it. You will answer each day's journal entry for social studies and English on a Google form attached in your social studies Google Classroom. So at this point, you probably already understand, but just in case this is the first video you're watching, you are only going to complete your work in social studies Google Classroom. You are not going to complete the work in your English Google Classroom, only social studies Google Classroom, okay? You will have to send a copy of your responses to your English teacher. Once you submit each day's journal entry here, it will email you a copy of your responses. You need to then forward that email to your English teacher to receive credit for both subjects. And I have a separate video on that you can watch. Your email address will be recorded, so when you're finished, it will send you an email and you can send that to your English teacher. Okay? So, let's start with our name. Remember, I told you to write your first and last name, because we have some students that have the same name, so it's very helpful if you write your first and last name. Once again, we have the description of the journal. That's what you're doing for the next 2 weeks, so you probably read this at least twice by now. So, I know earlier in the prompt I read the article to you and I read the question to you, but I'm going to go ahead and read it again. So the first question is, what does your neighborhood look like? Are people walking around? Your answer might look something like blank. So my neighborhood or Springdale or whatever you want to answer can be described as blank. So what are you seeing? People in my neighborhood are doing what? Okay. And remember, I'm not going to answer the question for you because I want you to do your own work. So I'm just going to type an answer in so I can eventually turn it in. But you are going to write the correct answer. The next question is, how have people's thoughts about travel changed? Why or why not? So, what do you think? Do you think people's thoughts about travel have changed? So, people's thoughts about travel have changed or have not changed because, and this is going to be your why or why not. So, my standard answer for every question. So, here is the article and the chunk that you are reading for today. And remember, I read this to you at the beginning of the video, so you can go back earlier in the video if you need to hear it again. And then we have this question here, right here. Why do you think some people believed at first Christians were immune to the disease? I believe some people believed at first Christians were immune to the disease because, you're going to write your answer right here. And I bet you can guess what I'm going to write. Yep. And then remember, the last two questions refer to your Venn diagram. So what is a new similarity that you see in the plague and the COVID-19 outbreak? Use evidence from the article chunk to support your answer. So you can use what you wrote in your Venn diagram. You can use what you underlined if you're doing it on paper. You can use what you highlighted if you're doing it in Google Classroom. So the plague and COVID-19 are similar because they both blank, and you write your answer here, which here's my answer. And then what is a new difference that you see in the plague and the COVID-19 outbreak? Use evidence from the article chunk to support your answer. So the plague and COVID-19 are different because they blank. And your teachers would like you to choose a new similarity and a new difference that you have not already written about. So think, what are some similarities that you haven't talked about? What are some differences that you haven't talked about? Okay? So once you've answered every question, you reread your answers to make sure they make sense, make sure you've spelled your name correctly. You're going to submit a copy of your answers. So click that submit button. And then the instructions say, good job. Now send this form to your English teacher. You will get an email with your responses. Forward that email to your English teacher to submit them. So like I said earlier, I have a separate video that shows you how to forward the email to your teacher. So if you need to watch it, just click the next video. If not, go ahead and forward that so your English teacher can give you a grade as well. As always, if you have any questions, please email your English teacher or your social studies teacher, and they would be more than happy to help.